Hey everybody, how's it going? I had a comment pop up on an old video I made. The video about when I lost my maintenance foreman job and they eliminated that job and I had to bump onto a maintainer, have to bump onto a maintainer job. That's what I chose to do. When I made that video, it was one of my early videos, and when I made that video, I didn't really know how YouTube worked. I didn't know how to use the studio page very well. I didn't know how to go to analytics. I didn't know any of that stuff. I was still just winging my way through it. And when that comment popped up today, I went back and started looking at some of the other comments on that page. And a lot of them were a year old or older, months old. And as I said when I did my 5,000 subscribers thing, I'm really sorry for not replying to comments. I didn't know how to dig through them at the time. I didn't know how to find all of them. Today, I go to the comments section and click on it every day, and I try to reply to any questions or comments that seem to need a reply. But I'll put the link to the playlist of my thoughts on railroading, because I go through a lot of the things I'm going to discuss in this video, more detail about those particular things. But one of the things that I got out of some of the comments is that a lot of people seem to think I was complaining, and I don't know how anyone could watch that video and come away thinking that I was complaining. I said multiple times in the video, I'm not complaining, I'm just the way things turned out. I wasn't happy about it, but in the end it ended up being okay, and I didn't mind doing it. It was kind of a pleasant change. It was a change of scenery, a change of atmosphere, a change of bosses, and it wasn't a bad thing. One thing that I can say about my career at the railroad is I never really complained about it. I was a high school graduate who a few times in my career made six figures. But even without overtime, I made great money. I had a company pickup. I had the freedom in my job to make my own schedule. It was very seldom that I had to go do something at a scheduled time or a scheduled place. I almost always got to make my own schedule up. I'd have the guys give me a call if they needed a hand or something, and that was okay. That's part of my job, and I never complained about it. And I didn't complain in this video. Now I'm complaining about being accused of complaining. My career at the railroad was a great career, and as I said, I'll put the link to the playlist in there in the description below, and you can go look at it. Because my thoughts on railroading were always, I thought, relatively positive, or at least not negative. I did a deal about my bosses. I got along. Even my boss that cut my job, we got along all right. I don't, in retrospect, the further I get away from him, I can see that he actually probably didn't like me. But in fairness, I don't really think he liked anyone, and that's on him. That's not on me or the other guys who have had to work under him. It kind of brings me to another point. In the analytics section, it always tells you how long people are watching your videos. And I realize that most people don't have a big attention span. They don't want to sit there and watch me babble on about this, or they've seen enough of trains going by, or whatever. And that's fine. That's the way it is with everyone's channel. But people make comments on some of my videos that don't make sense until I start thinking, well, they must not have watched the entire video. If they had, they wouldn't have made this comment, or they wouldn't have made that comment. They would have come away with a different understanding of what I was saying or what was going on, or whatever. And don't get me wrong, watch the videos, watch all of them. Some of them, I don't blame people for not watching all of. Some of them, after I get done editing, I'm like, oh my God, can I be any more long-winded? I always suggest watch the whole video. Or scoot forward in it if it's, too much of a train going by, or too much of this or too much of that. Scoot forward and make sure you catch the gist of the video, especially if I'm doing a video like this where I'm trying to explain something. I liked working for the railroad. I go on these Facebook pages and see these people just tearing the railroad apart, and all I can think is, quit. If you don't like your job, and that was the railroad, if you don't like your job, go find another job. Go find something you'll be happier doing. But you aren't going to go to work for any big industry like the railroad. You're not going to go to aviation or banking or healthcare or whatever it is, you're not going to go to one of those industries and be treated any better or looked at any differently. These are big giant corporations. They're there to make money. They're there to pay shareholder dividends. They're not there to mollycoddle their employees or make them feel good about themselves. Union Pacific didn't not pat me on the head or the back and tell me what a good boy I was, and I didn't expect that. I just expected a paycheck, and that's what I got. And not once did one of their paychecks ever bounce. Southern Pacific came close a few times where we got vouchers instead of paychecks, but that's another story. The railroad was a good place to work. Was it always a fun place to work? No, it wasn't. Did I always get treated like a hero of some sort? No, I didn't. But I didn't care. I had a job to do, and I was willing to do it, and they paid me well for it. And as I said, it was a job that came with a lot of perks. Even in retirement, I still have perks with the railroad. And I'm not going to complain about that, and I don't understand people who do. And unfortunately, most of the people who are miserable with their railroad jobs are in train service. Those guys work a lot. They're gone a lot. But they knew that going in. When I hired out in the signal department, they explained to me exactly where I would be. They explained to me the fact that I could be working just about anywhere. This was back in Southern Pacific in the old San Joaquin division. And they were right. I got bumped all over the place in the old San Joaquin division. And that went on until Union Pacific took over and they quit being so sketchy about the way things were happening. I feel bad for people who don't like their jobs. My wife works for one of the major healthcare providers. She gets treated badly. I don't know how she puts up with it, but they treat their employees like crap. Even their doctors they treat like crap. But it's a secure place to work. It's a good job. She doesn't hate her job, but she gets tired of the way she's treated, and I get tired of the way that they treat her. And I would say to anyone who works for the railroad who is complaining about their job, go work for some place like that for a year. You would quit. You'd quit in a year. You treated much more poorly than anyone I've ever known be treated at the railroad. A lot of people who get treated poorly at the railroad deserve to be treated poorly because they're lousy employees. They're the kind of people many times who never do anything but complain. They're never happy. They think they ought to start at the top and work their way down, I guess. But as I said in one of my older videos, I have no access to grind with the railroad. I have nothing against Union Pacific. I certainly had nothing against Southern Pacific. And while it was a more familial place to work, it was a much more difficult place to work because you never knew what was going to be going on with your job from day to day. If you're considering a career in the railroad, all I can suggest is that you make sure when you go to hire out, when you go to your introductory phase of the hiring process, find out exactly what's going to be expected of you. And if you are trying to go into the signal department and you don't want to dig ditches or build things, then that's not going to be the job for you. I'll tell you right now, just don't even go. If you're going to go into train service and you want to be home all the time and you want to have your weekends to yourself that's not going to happen. You're going to be on the road all the time. You're not going to get much of a break between runs, at least not until you build up some seniority. And that's just the way it is. Being an engineer on a train or a conductor or whatever working on a train has that mythical background to it, but that's not the way it is anymore. It hasn't been that way for a long time. But you know what? Neither are jobs in any other industry. Everything is changing. It has changed and it's going to continue to change. That's called progress. And to complain about it is pointless. And as with all jobs, they are what you make of them. If you decide that you don't like your job, you're always going to be miserable. I've always told that. I told that to my kids. The fastest way in the world to make your life miserable is convince yourself that you hate your job. And I thought the railroad was cool. It was a cool place to work, and I'm glad I did it. But back to that video, I really hope that I've never come across in any of my videos as complaining or making it sound like I didn't enjoy my career, because I did. And I don't like people who complain. I don't like listening to people complain, and I don't like to complain myself. So, hey, if I really am complaining, call me out on it. But on that video, I wasn't complaining about anything. I was just discussing what had happened, how I felt about it, and how I was going to move on and finish out my career. So anyway, I hope you go back to that playlist. I hope you watch that video. I hope you watch all the videos in that, because I talk about a lot of things that people have questions about. So anyway, keep shooting me the ideas. Drop them in the comments below. Shoot me an email at motorpoet59@gmail.com. Like, share, subscribe, click on the bell if you want to be notified of future content. We'll see you all later.